Hey guys, welcome to my channel, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to handle the array of object without have to rely on the Bubble database. Here I have the real world example of the invoicing app that I just built using a plugin called Magic State, and the plugin enables me to create some kind of a system of adding a new item to the invoice or making an update to it without have to rely on the Bubble database. And the good news is because everything happens in the client side, it's improved the performance tremendously. Also, because it happens in the user's device, it spans zero workload. And the other good news is since Bubble has the formatted text as the dynamic expression, it also allows me to build some kind of an array payload. So it's available whenever I want to use it in the API call. So to see it, how it was being set up, let's dive in. All right, what we have to do is we need to install two essential plugins. The first one is the API connector, and the second one is, of course, the Magic State itself. For those who are unfamiliar with the API connector, API connector enable us to handle the REST API. It's officially built by Bubble. So if you want to make an integration to the external application, it's really necessary to have this plugin. Once you install both plugins, what you have to do is you have to add an API here. And as you can see, I've already have one called custom type. I named this as custom type because all the API under this section will represent the custom data type that I will be used for Magic State. The first one, what we have to do in the invoice app, I'm going to need the invoice item. And since it came from the external database, I have the endpoint here. But if you think you don't need it, for example, like add to cart system, most of people doesn't have to retrieve it from the external database. It's just a temporary data, so you can just leave this empty like this, and then you hit this manually enter API response button and try to define the objects here. Yeah, since this is an invoice item, this will require some keys and a value. The keys that I'm going to need is the item ID, the item name, quantity, price, amount, and they're all written in the JSON format. Once you have the initial object, you can just hit the save button, and Bubble will recognize that there's a new data type called invoice item. Bubble will also understand that each key of this object will have different type itself. For example, like item, the item type is text, but the price item is number. So that's how Bubble recognize the custom type. Once it's done, just hit the save button, and usually it requires us to refresh the editor to see the changes being applied. All right, so that both plugins are installed and we already refreshed the editor as well. Everything should work as we expected now. The first thing that we have to do now is to find a new element called stateless. The stateless element is came from the Magic State plugin, and you just need to put this element everywhere in the canvas and then make sure the element is visible by default. So the setup here, we have three fields. The first one is the state ID. Each state should have a unique value. You can generate a random string for this. And then since we already set up an invoice item custom type before in the API connector, the invoice item should be available from the selection here. The data source field is really useful when you want to have an initial value. It might came from the external database or from anywhere. It accepts a list of data, so yeah, you can just put it here. But for now, I'm just leave this empty, and I'm going to show you that I've already set a new repeating group here, and the data type also the same. It's invoice item, and the data source is now came from the state list, which is the magic state custom element. Now that we already set this up, if we put a text element inside of the repeating group, we should be able to access the object keys that we already set up before. Uh, for now, I'm just going to show the item name as well as the item price. Since that this state doesn't has any initial value, if we try to preview it in the front end, we're not going to see anything yet. So I'm going to implement a new action called add an object to the state list. For your information, that this plugin Magic State has three actions. The first action is add an object to the state if you want to create a new object, and the second one is to delete the object. It's obviously, and then if you want to edit certain index of the object, you can also do it from edit an object from the state. Now that we need to continue this, I'm going to just paste an action that I already set up. uh, yeah, what you have to do is actually just find a new action called add an object to the state. This is what I've done here, and you can define the new object that you want to add to that state. In this case, I'm going to add the invoice item, and I have defined each value for each key parameter. Now if we try it from the front end, we should be able to add a new item, and as you can see, I can see the new item being added to the table. So now that we can make this more interactive, so that user can edit or delete any invoice item from the list. All right, so to make things easier for the users, I have done a couple of things here. The first one is I have created a new reusable element called Magic State RGCell, and what I have done is I put this reusable element inside of the repeating group. And the reason why I'm using reusable element is because I want to have more control of each cell inside of this repeating group. In order to make this reusable element works properly, we need to pass down two important values from the repeating group. The first one is the invoice item itself, and the second one is the current cell index. Now that we are in the magic state RG cell, the reusable element, I've added a couple of essential elements here, like the inputs and the deletion button. To enable user to delete this item, we can just simply call the action from the magic state called delete an object from state. And this is the beauty of this plugin. We don't need to put the plugin's element over and over again. We can just reference to the state ID that we already defined before, and we just need to tell the action which index we want to delete. It's actually the same with other input. Let's say if user make a change to this, we can just create a new listener. Bubble has a listener here called an input value is changed. So whenever the input item is changed, we also make an update to the state. So the action will call edit an object from state, put the reference, and tell the index this came from here, and then tell the action which key we want to change. In this case, I want to change the item name. The same with other input. I'm going to make another listener here for the pricing. Whenever the price is changed, I want the price is also being changed into what's written into this input. Other than that, we need to make a change to the amount as well, since this amount is being calculated by this input value times quantity. Let's do the same with quantity. setup still the same, but this time is for the quantity, and the quantity times input price value. And then once it's done, we can see the changes is being implemented. So yeah, let's preview this one. Let's create a new item. Now that we are able to create a new item, and then we should be able to make a change. As you can see, the amount is changed, and also we can make a deletion. Yeah, so that's pretty much it, how it was being set up, and hopefully this plugin can save you a lot of time, a lot of resources. If you have any question, just leave the comment below. So see you again, and thank you.